That's 1,000.
Could you explain this all one more time for the camera? So we have this battery here, which turns these.
No, that battery. Excuse me. Yes, you're right. That battery spins these wheels
and spins them this way.
Right. Well, whatever direction it goes in. I think. Yeah, there it is. And so now you have to spin. Now nothing's happening, and then you power this motor, which starts to turn these. Now the turning has to be faster than the natural rate of recession that you would get if you operated this by hand. So now you're using this to make the oscillation happen. So now the oscillation happens, and you end up putting 210 pounds here times over 10 inches. So we call that 2,100 inch-pounds is your output of power. The input is only 3 plus about 21. So let's say 25 inch-pounds in and 2,100 inch-pounds out.
Jeez. Can we see this demonstrated later?
Yeah, well, I can do it now.
Cool, that'd be good.
Let's see if I got enough left here. All right, so now, let me do this first.
Yep.
Right now, if we spin that, it's a little out of balance. But basically, you don't get much power out of it. Okay, now we start to spin. All you got is a little imbalance. Unfortunately, it's a little out of balance. Okay, now we got the spin power. Okay, now...
Probably move my nuts away from it.
So that goes up to 30. So you get 30 times 7 square inches. So that's 210 pounds now. Remember, we only put 25 inch-pounds in. We got 210 times the spin. It's got to go through a torque of 10. So that's 2,100 inch-pounds out, or less than 25 inch-pounds in. So
can you do the oscillation part again? Good Lord.
Now, if I put that over a little further, this will actually rip itself apart.
Cover your balls. I believe you.
It'll tear itself apart. It's way too much power. But the only power it takes, no matter how much you load with whatever force that you load it with, it doesn't feel it. It doesn't measure it. It's only 1.2 amps. They never go up no matter how much you load it.
And what's your name, sir?
Fran McCabe.
Fran McCabe? Okay.
I gotta show this. So Tesla calls this the wheelwork of nature. So he was behind some of the inspiration of this.
That's the real connecting factor, is Tesla brought everybody together. Everybody's connected to Tesla.
Yeah, he draws the power out of the cosmos, and then he explained this. And now, I was over at Belgrade, and I tried to get some of the information. Some of it's here.
They ever wanted to get one of John's
but he actually said this principle is good enough to bring the people because they can see it, they can maybe accept it. He says the next step that he's going to try to get through is the power. Now I can run it up. There's that ice sparkle. A bunch of waves going through tight motion, and then intervening or being received by a receiver. And then that power that's in the globules, that's the power that Tesla wants to bring to the internet. All the rest of it is, like even his white wooden clay tower doesn't have that much power.
Alright, fascinating stuff. Anyways, let's go further. So, yeah, I had to put all these illustrations on it just to illustrate exactly what's happening. So there's a 210 pound of force that is required to move this piston, and there's up and down motion of the piston. There's a side-to-side oscillating by the force precession inertial lift, actually. It's inertial propulsion. And then there's the force precession in red. and there is the spinning direction of the gyros. Again, let's keep going further. So this is absolutely amazing. Here's an illustration of a compressed air cylinder piston, just to give you an idea of how it works. So if you have air pressure in this side, this is a double acting cylinder. That if you increase air pressure here, it's going to increase the force. It's going to push out this way, force this way. But if you have a lot of pressure here, and or actually this is the put a lot of pressure in here, pushes it outwards all the way over here. And likewise on the reverse, if you're pushing it inwards like this, yeah, there's a lot of pressure from the outside across here. So you can basically move the shaft by changing the pressure there, as well as requiring more force that it can withhold by the amount of pressure on either side, and as well as being compressed and so on. So essentially the compression of air, so as it's compressed, it can build up more pressure and hence require more force or generate more force if you're doing that. So in this case here, so if you want to move this to the right, you can increase air pressure inside this left side. It will push out air down here and move whatever force across there. So just an illustration of that. And likewise on the reverse side. Essentially, the compression of air builds up in pressure and can generate force on the piston, or requiring force to move this piston up and down. So there is and you can see that there's air input or output on either side. So yeah, it appears to be a double acting cylinder like this. So it's an illustration. So here are the stats that McCabe describes regarding his gyro piston dynamo. The piston exerts upwards 210 pounds of force at about upwards and downwards, depending on how the piston's moving and how the oscillation of the gyro is. So 210 pounds of force at about 10 inches from the fulcrum, thus 210 times 10 equals 2,100 inch-pounds of torque is required to compress the piston. The precession rotor, or the rotor that generates the precession, is capable of 21 inch-pounds. The gyro wheel's rotor is capable of about 3 inch-pounds. Total output torque divided by total input torque equals 2,100 pounds divided by 24 inch-pounds, or about 87.5 torque over unit, around up to 88. It's fascinating stuff. So when the gyro wheels aren't spinning, the piston barely moves, but shakes a bit, mainly from the imbalance of the overall setup and quote Newtonian centrifugal force, because it's not spinning the wheels, just the precession is, or force precession, or global spin. So when the gyro wheels are rotating, force precession from the precession rotor cause the gyroscopes to exert massive amounts of torque, massive amounts of torque, far greater than the combined input of the two rotors are capable of. This torque is manifested through the oscillating back and forth motion of the gyro setup as it acts upon the piston. This oscillation motion is due to the force precession constantly switching directions as the gyro wheels twist. So that's fascinating stuff. So now let's look further at kind of practical applications of this piston is. Over unity gyro piston powered car. Imagine a simple gyro torque over unity piston mechanism being used to power cars with extremely low amounts of electrical input power. So you can get a drag racer like this, where you can generate massive amounts of torque, especially initially for low amounts of input power, and just to generate fast acceleration initially. So that's fascinating stuff. You can power this. Now that's a great Photoshop. So over unity compact gyro piston powered bicycle. Now that's a good question. What about a manually self-charging small gyro piston bike here? So yes, would this piston prototype be able to power the wheel, or just when you spin the wheels, it can generate or the input torque generated can create more output, and if you can somehow power a self-charging battery connected to the wheel or whatnot. I just put it there because it looks cool. But yeah, so maybe if there's a battery pack, it can be powered by this, and that'll be absolutely amazing. Or you can just directly power the bike as you go uphill. You can go super powerful or torque over unity. So anyways, over unity torque, over unity giant gyro piston power plant. The possibilities are endless. Now look at that. This is a great Photoshop by yours truly. #A Green New Deal.